You've started 10 things this year, finished 2, and there's a voice in your head that whispers the same thing every time you lose interest. What's wrong with me? But what if the problem isn't that you can't focus? What if it's that your brain was never designed to? You know the pattern. You dive into something new, a skill, a book, a project, and for a while it feels electric. You're learning fast, consuming everything, making progress. Then somewhere around week 3, the fire dims. Not because it's hard, because it's predictable. The dopamine fades, the novelty is gone, and suddenly you're already curious about the next thing. So you switch, and the cycle begins again. You look around at people who've spent 10 years mastering one craft, and you feel scattered, undisciplined, like you're collecting fragments instead of building something whole. Society calls this lack of commitment. Your brain calls it something else entirely. Here's what most people don't understand. Your brain isn't broken, it's polystructured. There's a concept in psychology called latent inhibition, the brain's ability to filter out stimuli that seem irrelevant or familiar. Most people have high latent inhibition. Once they've learned something, their brain stops paying attention to it. It becomes background noise. But some people, about 7% of the population, have low latent inhibition. They notice everything, patterns others miss, connections between unrelated fields, the subtle textures of experience that most brains have learned to ignore. And this is both a gift and a burden. Let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain. Every time you engage with something new, your brain releases dopamine, not as a reward, but as a prediction signal. Dopamine spikes when there's uncertainty, novelty, potential for learning. It's your brain saying, pay attention, there's information here. But once the pattern becomes clear, once your brain has mapped the territory, the dopamine drops. For most people, discipline and routine take over at this point. They push through the plateau because they've committed to mastery. But if you have a high openness to experience, one of the big 5 personality traits, your brain is wired differently. Openness correlates with increased activity in the default mode network, the part of your brain responsible for imagination, abstract thinking, and making distant connections. Your mind craves cognitive diversity. It doesn't want to go deep into one well. It wants to dig shallow wells everywhere and find the water table that connects them all. This is the polymath mind, and it doesn't operate on the same reward system as the specialist mind. So how do you work with your brain instead of against it? You stop trying to be someone you're not, and you build a system designed for integration, not isolation. Your attention span isn't short, it's cyclical. Instead of forcing yourself to stick with one thing, create a rotation of 3 to 5 projects in different domains. Cognitive psychology shows that interleaving, switching between related tasks, actually strengthens learning and memory. When you return to something after a break, your brain consolidates what you learned. You see it with fresh eyes. The key is structure, not rigid commitment, intentional rotation. Polymaths don't just collect knowledge, they synthesize it. This is called integrative complexity, the ability to recognize patterns across domains and combine them into something new. Every time you learn something in one field, ask, where else does this apply? A concept from neuroscience might illuminate a problem in design. A lesson from history might reframe your approach to business. Your brain is already making these connections unconsciously. Your job is to make them explicit. Here's the paradox. To be a polymath, you need one thing that serves as your integration point. Not a lifelong career, not a single identity, but a core question or central project that allows you to pull from everything you're learning. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's building a business, maybe it's designing systems that help people think better. This becomes the place where all your interests converge, the trunk that supports the branches. Without it, you're just wandering. With it, you're exploring with purpose. Stop measuring yourself by how much you finish. Start measuring yourself by how well you connect. Keep a commonplace book, a digital garden, a voice memo library. Capture the insights that emerge when you move between fields, because the value of the polymath mind isn't in the depth of any one skill. It's in the emergent insight that comes from cross-pollination. This is the hardest one. The world is built for specialists. Job descriptions want experts. Social media rewards niches. People will ask you over and over, but what do you actually do? And the answer, I connect things, won't feel like enough. But here's the truth. The most important breakthroughs in history didn't come from people who went deep into one field. They came from people who stood at the intersection of many. Darwin combined geology, biology, and economics. Steve Jobs combined calligraphy and computing. Marie Curie bridged physics and chemistry. Your refusal to stay in one lane isn't a weakness, it's your edge. So let's tie this together. Your brain isn't broken because it won't stay still. It's optimized for breadth. You experience low latent inhibition. You notice what others ignore. You have high openness. You crave novelty and connection. Your dopamine system rewards exploration, not repetition. And instead of fighting that, you can design a life around it. Rotate intentionally. Synthesize constantly. Anchor strategically. Track insight, not output. And accept that your path will look different. Because the polymath mind doesn't build towers, it builds networks. And networks, when connected right, are far more resilient than any single structure. You've spent so long thinking you needed to fix yourself, to finally pick one thing and stick with it, to become someone you're not. But maybe the real work isn't narrowing, maybe it's integrating. Not finishing everything, but connecting everything. Because the world doesn't need more people who know one thing deeply. It needs more people who can see the whole map. You're not scattered, you're woven. And that's exactly what the world needs you to be.